Bama, Michigan. Who wins and why? Right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis. We are 21-6 in our college football playoff predictions. Straight up going back to 2014. We are 21-12 against the spread in our bowl predictions. Hopefully you're getting our bowl predictions and you're doing quite nicely as you did in the regular season as well. You can get all our predictions by being a member on Patreon or right here as a YouTube channel member. Let's get right to it, considering that this is probably the best Michigan team since 1997. This is possibly, you could argue, we shall see how it plays out over the next possible 2 games for Bama, the worst tied team since 2010, 2008. This is not vintage Bama, but this may turn out to be the national championship team. Check out our stats comparison. We took a deep dive on Michigan Bama in the various statistical categories. We have left that link in the comments section. All right, let's first get to it. Understanding that Michigan's been the more dominant team and the more consistent team. They've really only had one letdown game. That was the penultimate game against Maryland on the road. They only won by a touchdown. They got 2 key turnovers on defense that were pretty much decisive in winning that game, and a blocked punt as well in defeating the Terps. Otherwise, the close calls were against the top 10 teams that they played in Penn State on the road, although they controlled the game certainly, and Ohio State a narrow 30-24 win against what is probably at full capacity a top 5 team in the country. Alabama, though, let's even push to the side the Texas performance, and of course Texas is right here in the college football playoffs, so there is no shame in losing to the Longhorns. But that USF effort that went to 3-3 in the fourth quarter before winning 17-3, push that aside. Different Alabama team. Alabama still struggled against the likes of Texas A&M on the road. Talented Aggies team, but still, Alabama needed to run out the clock in the final few minutes to salt that game away 26-20. That could have been a loss. They were trailing at halftime of that game. Arkansas came back with 3 consecutive scores in the second half in Tuscaloosa and pushed the Tide to the brink before Bama was able to run out the clock, much like they did against the Aggies with a 4-minute drive on the ground. And then, of course, the 4th and 31 miracle on the Plains against Auburn. This Bama team probably should not be in the college football playoff. Auburn should have been able to play good enough defense on 4th and goal from the 31-yard line to keep Bama out of the end zone. But Jalen Milroe made the perfect pass. Isaiah Bond made the perfect corner catch by the pylon to help Bama escape. And then they played their perfect game, put it all together when they needed to. And this is the mark of Nick Saban teams. Playing the number 1 team in the country, the 2-time defending national champion. Bama didn't just win that game. They didn't just pull it out. They grabbed a 2-score lead after giving up an opening 75-yard touchdown drive to Georgia. They took control of that game, and they led by 2 scores. And anytime Georgia got within 1 score, Bama came right back and took a 2-score lead until Georgia scored that final touchdown to narrow the gap to 27-24. And then what did Bama do? They did it again. 3-minute drive, couple first downs converted, 1 on the legs of Jalen Milroe, and they salted the game away. This is not a 27-24 win against the number 1 team in the country that they had to withstand a drive into the red zone to hold on for the win. They had a 2-score lead for much of the game, and they salted it away. They controlled the game against Georgia. Impressive performance by Bama. And keep in mind that Bama has posted national championships in seasons 2015, 2017, 2021. The 21 team, of course, lost in the final 4 minutes to Georgia and did not win the national championship. But the point being, they showed themselves worthy of a college football playoff appearance, even though they were mighty shaky. Check out those seasons. I'm not going to run through all the results now, but against the likes of marginal Auburn teams and other results happening within the SEC in 2015 in that Ole Miss Arkansas game that ushered, you could call it luck, you can call it fortune, but Bama was able to make their way to the college football playoff. And then what happened? They took advantage and they showed that they belonged, and this could be a similar situation. J.J. McCarthy played a sterling game throwing the football against Ohio State, 16 of 20, and of course the one touchdown throw that opened up the game 14-3 was a remarkable throw that the NFL scouts are drooling over. Aside from that performance, though, even though JJ was strong this season, he was a much better quarterback early in the season, and he had his issues down the stretch, especially that game on the road against Maryland, in which he got picked off a couple times and then also was barely over 50% completion percentage. So J.J. McCarthy has to play the game of his life. He also, I believe, I may be proven wrong in this one, has to be a runner. And he's capable of being a runner. The difference between Ohio State and Michigan this year was J.J. McCarthy, the guy that can escape the pocket and then throw on the run downfield accurately, and the guy that can escape the pocket and pick up a first down. He's an athlete. There's no question about that. Go back to Michigan's last performance against an SEC team. Cade McNamara could not handle the Georgia defense in 2021. Put in J.J. McCarthy during garbage time, and he showed that an elite athlete against an elite defense at least has a chance. J.J. McCarthy as a runner could be key in this game against Bama. But on the other side, the flip side, Jalen Milroe is just a dude that Michigan has not seen. This Michigan defense has not seen Jalen Milroe, not just in 2023. They've not seen that kind of player at quarterback their entire careers. Max Duggan would be the closest in regards to an effective runner, a guy that was a tough runner with speed. But Jalen Milroe, athlete, body build, Cam Newton-esque. Michigan has not seen this. Nothing close to it. Gavin Wimsatt of Rutgers would be the closest matchup for the Michigan defense. So they are going to have to adjust significantly. And I'm guessing that their backup quarterback, Alex Orji, who could come into the game and present a challenge to the Michigan defense or the Alabama defense, of course, could be the wild card in this. And in regards to preparation, allowing the Wolverines to see something close to what they will see with Jalen Milroe. Milroe was not a good quarterback back in September when he faced Texas. Then he got pulled against South Florida, did not play that game against the Bulls. But then he progressively got better and better and better and better and showed us very early on that he is one of the elite downfield throwers in college football. He's right there with Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Jalen Milroe, can throw the deep ball. And not that he doesn't just have a howitzer, he can put it on a dime. But what has not been regarded here recently in recent weeks is Jalen Milroe has improved as a intermediate thrower. Still not elite, and he's eliminated the mistakes. And the key to Alabama's season, and I've said it the entire season, even though I had a few Michigan fans that accused me of just jumping on the Jalen Milroe train here since the college football playoff selections were made. No. Let's be accurate. Go back to the very beginning of Alabama's win streak. What did I say? Alabama has figured it out. First, I predicted that Nick Saban and Alabama would figure it out, that they would come up with an identity that would fit Jalen Milroe. And then we noted it week to week to week to week. I am on record as saying Bama's going to the national championship game, and they are going to do it because they are going to be able to discard the part of the playbook that Jalen Milroe cannot execute. They're not going to make him Peyton Manning, have to read and dissect the defense. Nope. Throw it deep or run. Although he's getting better at the intermediate throws. The Bama offensive line had issues early in the season. Of course, Caden Proctor is the guy that everyone picked on at left tackle, the five-star freshman, but he has improved considerably. The Bama running game, and this is another one of note in the opening theme and storyline that I put out there, that this Bama team may be the worst Nick Saban has ever put on the field, or certainly one of the 2 or 3 worst teams. And it's also because of the running back position. Bama has regularly posted one of the great running backs in college football. Najee Harris, Trent Richardson, Derrick Henry. We could go on and on and on and on and on. Harris would be the most recent. Roydale Williams is really good. Jace McClellan leads the Tide attack on the ground with over 800 yards. Had to miss much of the SEC championship game, but it seems as though he's ready to go. Justice Haynes is the guy that Bama fans want to see as the 5-star freshman. I don't know that he's ready to shoulder the load. You got Jalen Milroe. So they've got a bunch of backs that have 4- and 5-star rankings. So the issue has not been recruiting, but these guys have just been regular running backs. We have not seen the guys that I just mentioned or a Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield for Bama. So the offensive line, the running backs, certainly the wide receivers are not vintage Bama. This wide receiver core cannot be confused with Jalen Waddle, Jamison Williams, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, those guys. Jerry Jeudy. No. But this is a better wide receiver core that have made plays and at least hung onto the ball better than the 2021 and 22 Bama teams that let down Bryce Young. Isaiah Bond in particular, 44 catches, 14 yards per catch, and 4 touchdowns, has pulled down some of the more important passes this season. On the flip side, Michigan, a wide receiver with Cornelius Johnson, 42 catches, 4 touchdowns. Roman Wilson, of course, the big play threat, 41 catches, 11 touchdowns. However, because of Bama being so strong, and I believe that these two teams present the 2 best cornerback tandems in college football. Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terrion Arnold for Bama. Will Johnson, Mike Sanderstill have combined for 8 interceptions and 3 taken to the house. But Bama, I believe, is better equipped, with Bond in particular, to challenge Johnson and Sanderstill. I do not believe that Michigan receivers are going to challenge and make huge plays against those Bama corners. However, this is where Michigan needs to find Colston Loveland. He cannot catch 3 passes and Michigan wins this game. A.J. Barner, not the athlete that Colston Loveland is, but still capable in the passing game, 22 catches as the transfer from Indiana. Barner and Loveland need to be targeted, and they need to be utilized as mismatches against safeties and slot corners and linebackers. Colston Loveland needs to be targeted more like 10 or 12 times and catch 6, 7, 8, 9 passes for Michigan to be successful in the passing game, because will Michigan be able to run it against Bama? Blake Corum had a fine season. He ran in a ton of touchdowns inside the 5-yard line, 24 to lead the nation. But Blake Corum saw his yards per carry average decline from 5.9 last year to 4.7. And Donovan Edwards, who was the star in replacing Corum last year in the college football playoff run and in the big wins against Illinois, Ohio State, and Purdue, has completely disappeared as a runner. He could be a threat in the passing game to supplement Loveland and Barner against what could be taken away in that wide receiver versus cornerback matchup. So Donovan Edwards more as a receiver, not the guy that averaged 3.5 yards per carry this season as a runner after averaging almost 8 yards per carry last year. What's happened to Donovan Edwards, I don't know. But Alabama's going to be able to contain, I believe, the Michigan ground game. That's why JJ's got to be a runner, and that's why Donovan Edwards has to be utilized as a receiver, because Michigan's going to have to generate offense in somewhat unconventional, non-traditional ways. I mentioned that Bama does not have the emergence of a elite All-American runner, and that Michigan defensive front, even though Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo 2 years ago were stars on both ends, this Michigan defensive line, both from a run-stopping standpoint and also a pass rush standpoint, coming from various players, Jalen Harrell, the most heralded, and Braden McGregor, that it's going to be difficult for Bama to run against Michigan in a traditional running back sense as well. That's why Jalen Milroe is the wild card and the X factor in this game. James Turner and Will Reichard both make their kicks. That should not be an issue for either team, although pressure gets to some players. Let's look at the talent. It's not comparable, not in terms of elite talent. Bama's got it all over Michigan. And we know that you generally have to be one of the three most talented teams in the country to win a national championship. But there are exceptions. But those exceptions typically lie in the top 10. And then those exceptions also come along with an elite quarterback, a generational player like Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, Cam Newton, going back to 2010 Auburn, probably the least talented national championship team in the last 20 or 25 years. Michigan, according to the 247 Sports Composite, has the 14th most talented team in college football, and Bama is number 2. That's a huge favor to Alabama, although there is a component here in play that I don't believe is being measured accurately enough at this point of the game, and it's the introduction of the transfer portal that Michigan has taken full advantage of and added key components, especially along the offensive line, that have proven to be the difference in surpassing Ohio State in the Big Ten. Also, let's look at the two coaches. Jim Harbaugh's postseason record at Michigan is deplorable at 1-6. However, do I believe that Jim Harbaugh is a good enough coach to prepare a team for a college football playoff game? Yes, I do. I, unlike a lot of Michigan fans, was defending Jim Harbaugh in 2020. When most Michigan fans wanted him out, I was defending his career, his legacy, and his ability to do something with this program because he's done it with Stanford, the San Francisco 49ers. If he can prepare NFL teams for playoff games in the NFC, going to NFC championship games, winning an NFC championship game, and coming within one score, one throw in the end zone from winning a Super Bowl, then he knows how to prepare teams for big games and postseason games. However, it's just not being done right now at Michigan. I'm sure he's analyzed that. I'm sure he's tweaked it. I'm sure he's looked at it. It's been much talked about, and we'll see if Michigan can finally get over the hump there. On the flip side, he's facing the worst possible matchup in terms of preparation for a postseason game in Nick Saban. Nick Saban is 9-4 in the college football playoff. He is 13-4 in playoff games and BCS national championship games. 13-4. Basically, you have to have an ultra-talented special team, a special team to beat Nick Saban. Those 4 losses during the playoff era, 2014 Ohio State, which was just abounding with NFL stars all over the place. 2016, Clemson with a generational quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Ditto, 2018 Clemson, Trevor Lawrence. 2021, Georgia with the best defense in college football over the last 25 years. You got to be special to beat Nick Saban in the playoffs. I don't know if that's Michigan. Again, my playoff record is 21-6 straight up. My bowl record this year, 21-12 against the spread. And you know, with the opt-outs, that has not been easy. Hopefully you're getting my picks over on Patreon or as a YouTube channel member right here. But here's a freebie. Too much Bama, too much talent, too much Nick Saban. Your final score, Bama 31, Michigan 20. Leave your comments below right here at the Voice of College Football.